Okay.
Okay.
We can go.
Do it.
I'd like to open this February the 22nd of 2016, long time, and into a closed meeting. The Board of Supervisors hereby enters into a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Discussion of consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, former Blacksburg High School property. Next is the consultation with legal counsel and briefings from staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, and consultation with legal counsel employed by or retained by a public body, regarding specific legal matters requiring provisions of legal advice by such counsel. Elimination of compensation stipend for the position of clerk of the circuit court. Discussion, consideration, or interviews prospective candidates for employment, assignments, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. Economic Development Authority, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Transportation Safety Commission. And also add to closed meeting the discussion of or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose or of the disposition of public held real property, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. It has to do with the Roanoke Public Safety Site.
So moved.
Second. Chair, can I interrupt just for a second? Yeah. I think we first need to amend the agenda to add the Reiner topic to closed session under number 3.
I make a motion to amend the agenda to add the Reiner Public Safety Site under the closed meeting.
Second.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Motts? Aye. Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes to amend the agenda.
All right, and then I think the motion in front of the board now is to go into closed session for the items that were
Yeah. I
described
made
by
the
Mr. Creed, including the Reiner.
including that. I made the motion to go into closed meeting.
Second.
Over there.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Is there a motion to go out of closed meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. Whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County hereby certifies to the best of each member's knowledge that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, and considered by the board. And in layman's terms, that's our promise to you, that we're guaranteeing the only things that we discussed were the items that were listed in the closed meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts? Aye. Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Purvis?
I'm sorry if there's some static in my ear. Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
At this point in time, are you all right? I know you're getting some
really,
feedback.
I can't hear.
I can
It's too
hear.
much.
I can hear the
Yeah,
feedback.
it's too much static there. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I'll try and this here.
All right. At this point in time of the meeting, it's time for our invocation. We're going to observe a moment of silence. I would ask everyone to rise, and then we're going to ask Craig Meadows, County Administrator, to lead us in the pledge.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda is a public hearing in regards to a special use permit for Appalachian Power. Emily, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You brought out a big crowd for your public hearing today.
Wow, I didn't know that this
It's an
was...
exciting substation. Actually, it's a very straightforward request. We've included a lot of information in your packet, but ultimately, as you'll see, this is an existing substation they're looking to expand. It's been in that location since 1965, and the expansion's fairly minimal. So, the subject property is located just outside the town of Blacksburg in the northeast portion of the county. That's known as Mount Tabor Magisterial District A. You can see from the aerial that we provided that the site substation is existing, and the request was to do an expansion. It's only non-conforming in the fact that we now require an SUP, and at the time we did not. This map gives you a good look at how the transmission lines intersect with the substation. You can see they go in the different directions. So the background is this substation was constructed in 1965. At that time, the county did not regulate those through zoning. The current ordinance does specify that for substations we require an SUP. So this substation is only because of that considered non-conforming. When they came in and asked about expansion, our ordinance says if you're non-conforming, you can't expand unless you get conforming. So this substation, you can see from the aerials and the data that we provided, there's some fairly minimal changes, including relocating the control house and swapping out some of the appurtenances on the site. This gives you an idea of where it fits along with our future land use. And obviously in the comprehensive plan, we talk about an orderly extension of electrical services like our other infrastructure. We've included a few pictures in the presentation to give you a sense of what it looks like on the site. Vehicles there for scale. It also shows how it intersects there with that transmission line and some views of the adjacent property. This is the map that was included from the applicant. It shows the existing substation, it shows the area that they'd like to expand, and then it also shows some of the structures associated with the transmission line. We are reviewing the request for the SUP for the substation. The transmission line is not part of our review. The exhibit that was included in your packet also shows some of those appurtenances that are being swapped out. When staff did the analysis on it, again, it's an existing substation. The expansion's necessary to maintain that reliable electric service to our citizens, businesses, and there is some work that will go on temporarily during construction, and they're also obtaining a grading easement. This will prevent a retaining wall, which would be something they'd have to maintain. So they're working with the neighboring property owner on that. And you also received a letter in your packet of support from the neighboring property owner. The Planning Commission had their public hearing on the 9th. They voted 8-0 with one member absent to recommend approval to the Planning Commission. At that time, we had no conditions proposed and were willing to hear anything the public might bring up. We had no public speak at that public hearing. And that's all staff has for you, unless you have some questions for us. Also, I should mention representatives from the applicant are here as well.
Start with Mr. King. Any questions?
This in no way going to impact any of the landowners around, correct?
Just the one who provided the letter of support, he is working with them to make sure they can grade without having to build that retaining wall.
Thank you.
Ms. Perkins? Mr. Creed?
Good.
Ms. Biggs?
No.
Mr. Motts?
No.
Mr. Shepherd?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is...
Chair open.
sorry, for public hearing. Thank you very much, Marty. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to address the board in regards to this subject, namely the AEP? There will be a public address later that you can address the board on any other subject, but this is only in regards to the Appalachian Power issue. I don't see anyone coming forward. Thank you. We'll go ahead and close that public hearing. The next item on the agenda is a work session. At this point in time, I'm going to relinquish the chair to the vice chair for the purposes of the work session.
Where are we at here?
Right here.
Okay. I should have that right here, don't I?
And I guess at this point in time, relinquishing the chair, I would make a motion to go into work session.
Motion. Second.
I'm good about the wire, it still don't work.
So I had that right. Here we go.
Should be there, don't it?
Work session right there.
Hey, okay, be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into work session for the purpose of discussing the following. Discussion of Clerk of Circuit Court of Montgomery County, tab B. Is that all we need?
I believe there's been a motion in a second.
We already got a motion in a second.
Okay. Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts? Aye. Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
7 ayes, you're in work session.
Okay. Have we got a sheet with anybody's names on it?
Well, no, at this point in time, I guess the reason I relinquished the chair is to be able to discuss this more freely. I didn't feel that it was fair to my fellow supervisors to be the last one speaking. And so, for the purposes of this work session, I wanted to go ahead and relinquish the chair, and that's why I did so. I would ask the vice chair if I could have the opportunity to address the board.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Many of you may be wondering, my fellow board members, why I'm starting off a presentation and talking to you with a picture of myself and Jimmy Carter. Do something better, I'll show a second picture of myself with Jimmy Carter. As this is developed in regards to the clerk's issue, I've heard this is a Republican and Democrat issue. It's R&D, it's R&D. And I've always tried to pride myself on the fact that I listened to folks' ideas, I listened to what they had to say, and didn't just try to judge them by labels. One of the reasons I have these pictures hanging up in the wall of my office is not because I think Jimmy Carter was a great president, because I don't. But I do believe he was a great man. And looking at this situation, I kept thinking, I want people to give me the benefit of the doubt. I want people to say, hey, listen, he's not being partisan. That this is some of his life experiences that he brings to the table when he was elected as to the Board of Supervisors. I also realize that if I'm going to say this, that's a golden rule. I have to apply it to my fellow supervisors and say that this is not a Republican-Democrat issue, that this is their life experiences. My life experiences have been, I've been in the clerk's office. I worked with those people. I know who did the work. I talked with Erica 2 years ago about being there in the office. I looked her in the eye and said she could be clerk for life. Probably not a good Republican thing to do, but I wanted the best for Montgomery County. And I wanted to see her succeed and do a good job. I also have to understand, just as I bring those life experiences, the folks who are now bringing all sorts of problems to me because I'm in the courthouse on a regular basis. Each one of you have different life experiences than I do. You've probably campaigned with Erica. You've probably gone door to door. You've eaten meals with her. You've gone to different functions. And you've seen a different side to the circuit court clerk. There's a difference there. Well, when I started looking at things, I realized, again, I want to give you all the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to ask everyone here to give me the benefit of the doubt that this is what I'm bringing to the table and that your life experiences are what you're bringing to the table. Now, we asked for a letter. And Ms. Williams will not discuss any personnel matter in any inappropriate and/or public forum. I was very specific and asked about, and if y'all will recall, high turnover rate. I also asked about her office attendance. There was a method to that. I'm a political junkie. I go to a lot of political forums, and I went to the debates. And I recalled specifically in regards to Ms. Williams. And this is a live footage from that debate that was recorded at that point in time.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Not that we were the motion maker, rebut.
You rebut. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson asserted that there was high turnover in the circuit court clerk's office, and I would add that there is not in any agency and any organization. You are always going to have folks that are going to further their education and move on. We have had that in the clerk's office. We have had folks that have furthered their education and gone on to bigger and better things. We're very excited and very proud of that has happened. Additionally, one of the other challenges that I believe any county department would see is that sometimes you can't pay people what they're worth. And our folks that work in the circuit court clerk's office are worth a lot more than they're paid, and sometimes they have to move on.
I was very specific about that because she talked about the high turnover rate in a very public forum, something that she was not willing to share with us in her letter when she responded to us. Now, also, we watched the general 2 points that she makes. She says her high turnover rate is due to the fact that she can't pay her folks enough. Again, we bring different life experiences to the table. We've watched the General District Court and J&D courts make presentations to us. We know that they make, in some cases, a third as much as the folks who are in circuit court clerk's office. You recall, I read out the names of the folks who were in the clerk's office. There's a turnover rate of 155% in the circuit court clerk's office. When you look at General District Court over an 8-year period of time, there's a 50% turnover rate. Remember, these folks are making considerably less. The least experienced General District Court clerk would be the second most employee now in Erica's office. in the Circuit Court of Montgomery County with 2 years and 4 months based on the employees there. Throughout that debate, she talked about how experience mattered. Experience was important and that her office was a team. Many of you know that through the emails that we've received, that the employees have been reaching out to us because we're on the Board of Supervisors. They gave permission for many of us to look at their personnel files, to look at what they had in them. And I received some of them, but I trusted, but I verified. I asked our staff to say, was this the last evaluation that Diana Vaught had? I was told it was. Diana Vaught, with the experience of over 32 years, her last evaluation was in 2011. Now, if you remember in Erica's letter, she indicated that, listen, I contacted HR folks and I wanted to make sure that we're doing things the right way. Well, one, from speaking with the county, our HR department did not know that she was going to let go 4 employees and a 5th would end up leaving until the morning of. That they had not been consulted in regards to that. That does not mean that Ms. Williams didn't consult other people, but it's clear that she didn't consult the county's HR staff. Ms. Vaught received a 2.5 out of 3. Now, you're going to see different scales in regards to the employees, but that's because the evaluation was done in 2011. This ranks her as being above commendable, which is a performance exceeding the supervisor's expectations. Now, when I looked at these things and the employees told me that I had permission to look at them, I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to evaluate them warts and all. I didn't see anything in Ms. Vaught's personnel file that was bad, except for this letter. Ms. Vaught, thank you for your interest in being reappointed into your position in the clerk's office. After careful consideration, I've decided not to reappoint you, and your employment with my office will end at the close of business December 31st, 2015. Please contact the Human Resource Department with any questions about your benefits. 32 years of experience was walking out the door. That was the explanation that she received. Diana Vaught was under the impression that she would not be able to get a retirement, that she was 4 months short. She asked and said, will you please let me stay another 4 months? She was told no, that she would not be allowed to do so. Tammy Hester. Tammy Hester, you'll note, she's been there 24 years. Her last evaluation was in 2013. Her evaluation was 4.94, almost a perfect score. But Ms. Hester, after witnessing her 4 co-workers be fired, she refused to resign a letter that was required. It said that she had to pledge her loyalty to Erica, that she would be demoted, and that was something that Tammy couldn't do. She couldn't live with herself after seeing that. Now, to me, that's somebody who's willing to take and ended up, now that she's got a position with the sheriff's office, she's taken about a $20,000 pay cut. But she stood up for what she believed was right. She stood by her fellow employees. And that's the type of person I want on the county payroll. And that's somebody that I want in the foxhole with me when things start going bad. The next is Alan Worrell. And as I told you previously, I said warts and all. In regards to what his last evaluation was, it was 2010. He's got about 16 years of experience. He received a ranking of 1.82 out of 3, which ranks him above competent. Now, there's some other things in his file. In 2013, he was demoted, and he received a pay cut. There was, in fact, an attorney sending in stale checks. And stale checks means checks that are over 6 months. He had been told previously, don't deposit it. So he set them aside because he didn't want to put them in the till. He was written up for that, and he was demoted. He accepted that demotion and signed for it, and it cost him a pay cut. There were other things that he was written up for. He was written up for not responding to emails. And anybody who worked in that courthouse would know that Alan Worrell was not somebody who was technology driven. To my understanding, he just now got a cell phone. So out of that was legitimate. But one of the other things it said he needed to work on being friendlier. Now, we all have our different life experiences. One of my life experiences is just going in there and seeing Alan on a regular basis. But that write-up was in 2013, but Alan's always seemed like a very friendly person to me and to my clients. Crystal Kessling. Crystal Kessling received a 4.79, not just in 2014, but in 2013. A score above commendable and just short of outstanding. I'm very happy to hear that Crystal Kessling has been able to land a job over in Giles County. And one of their prominent attorneys came to me and said, man, we wish we could get more of them, just like Crystal. Amanda Haley. She got a 4.37 score out of 5.0, and she had almost 5 years of experience. When you start putting that together, that's over 80 years of experience. If I do my math right, who knows, I was a history major, not a math major. But those are pretty important numbers. The next numbers are pretty important too. In regards to the staff, I asked the staff to put together, I know the FOIA requests were out there, but I said, listen, I don't want the information knowing when she's coming and going, I just want the total hours. The staff was able to put that together. In October, she worked 86.76 hours. In November, 78.2. In December, 92.73. Those are the hours of the swipe card that goes in and out. To be able to get in and out of the clerk's office, you have to utilize your swipe card to get out, or now some people follow other people out of the parking garage. That does happen. But to move around and outside the clerk's office, you have to use that swipe card. I went ahead and put together a little chart. The far left and in the red, you'll see Erica's hours during those periods of time. You'll see 30 hours a week, and why that's significant, that's what would be so you could be eligible for the Affordable Care Act. And then the yellow hours would be 40 hours a week with taking an hour long for lunch. Now I'm certain that Ms. Williams has got a lot of good reasons why she wasn't there for those hours. And she's probably got good reasons why she wasn't there on election day. But who was running that office? Those people who are no longer there. Those people are the folks that had all that experience. Now what happened after that? Our county, the largest county west of Charlottesville, was unable, our clerk's office was unable to operate on its own. We had to bring in people from Pulaski County to be able to operate our clerk's office. That's embarrassing to me, and I've said that previously. We need to make sure that we can operate a clerk's office. Those are important things that happen there. That's disturbing to me. A few other things. One, when you look at this, I've always been a person who is very proud to be a Republican. I was proud that Lincoln was a president, Eisenhower, and Reagan. But looking at this issue, it is not an R and D issue. In my mind, it's an R and W issue, right and wrong. She hurt our county when she made this decision. She hurt our county when we aren't able to operate. She hurt our county when she let these experienced folks go. And so I don't believe that, while I'm very proud to be a Republican, I don't believe right and wrong is something exclusively to our party. Because as much as I'd like to ignore it, Richard Nixon was also a Republican president. But I'd like to believe that if I was in Congress, I would have stood up to him in the 1970s and said, this is wrong. You shouldn't do this. And we can send a message to our constitutional officers. If you fire half your staff and you cannot operate your office, and you have to call in people to be able to operate your office, guess what? You're going to lose your supplement. And we're not going to pay you any additional money. That's what it boils down for me. I've tried to look at this as objectively as I possibly can. I looked at what Ms. Biggs had said and Nick Rush had said, that this money was added for turnover. When you look at that turnover, it's 155%. You look at a general district court clerk's office, and it's 50%, a third. It doesn't make sense to me, and I believe that we need to take a stand, and we need to say that this supplement should not continue. Thank you.
picture, he's so close. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're running it. You gotta ask others.
Okay. With that said, do we have anybody that's signed up?
No, I think you need to ask other supervisors.
Okay, let's go that way. I forgot about that. Any other supervisors that would like to speak down here to give your,
Which end you going, down there or here?
we'll start
You
over
wanna-
here and come this way. or-
Let's go that way, please.
You gonna go there and come back?
Yes.
Okay.
After that presentation, I don't think there's much to be said. I agree with what Chair Tuck says, and as far as I'm concerned, she doesn't deserve that money.
I'm going to reserve comment till later on.
I'm reserving my comments until the resolution comes before us.
I'm going to reserve my comments also until the resolution comes before us.
You know, I'm gonna say something short and sweet. I don't think it's a DNR thing. We get out and we ask citizens to come to our meetings. We invite them every week, and as you know, when we talk about this situation, a lot of people come out. I mean, we had a herd of people in here. And first and foremost, I want to tell how much I appreciate taking your time from your family to come over here and give us your opinion. And, you know, I get kind of emotional because I knew Miss Williams and her family for many years, many years. I consider them friends. But anytime you get anything from taxpayers' money, you got to be accountable for it. We do. Anybody has to be accountable for it. And I appreciate Mr. Tuck's presentation this evening.
Guess I'd make a motion to go out of work session.
Motion.
So moved. Second. However, I don't hear anything.
Okay. Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
7 ayes, you're out of work session.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is public address. I'm going to start off and just go down the list, and then after we go to the list, we'll check to see if anyone else is would like to speak on this. I apologize for moving that around. The first speaker we have signed up is Marshall Frank.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, good evening. Marshall Frank, 508 Cedar Orchard Drive, Blacksburg, Montgomery County, Virginia. First, I want to take just a few seconds to thank you all for your service. We've all had opportunities to do many things in our lives, but the time and the effort that you put into making these decisions, spending the time that you do, is greatly appreciated, and I think you often go unthanked for that. Secondly, I want to challenge Chairman Tuck to do what he says he's going to do and continue on a nonpartisan basis and try to prevent the gridlock that has occurred at a federal and state level from dribbling down to the Montgomery County level. Now, why am I here? I'm here to address the concerns that you have about the Circuit Court Clerk's office. I've provided you all with a detailed letter. I've got more copies available here and out in the lobby if anyone cares to read my feelings, my opinion, my observations. I have a very unusual perspective that I think is quite different than the he said, she said that we've all listened to over the past few weeks. I respect everybody's opinion. I know it's a very emotional question for many people, the clerks that are no longer there, the ones who are there now, Erica herself. I'm friends with the deputy clerks, both the former deputy clerks. I've gotten to know some of the new ones. I'm also a friend of Erica's. I've tried to be very neutral about this. Didn't have anything to do with the decision-making. Honestly, didn't completely agree with Erica's way of handling this, and I told her that. She didn't ask me. I told her this after the fact. I thought things might have been handled differently in a more positive fashion, but it really boils down to two simple things tonight. We've had a great presentation from Chairman Tuck. I appreciate his approach. He and I are fellow lawyers. We have long fine. We communicate with each other. He's been good to work with over the years, and I intend to work with him in years to come. All of you have a job to do, and we have to realize very simply, this is a very simple two-question case. One, do you have the authority to manage or dictate policy or question the management style of your circuit court clerk? She's a duly elected official. The Virginia Supreme Court has ruled she is not an employee of the county. She's not your employee. She is free to act on her own, whether we like or don't like what she does. That is her freedom as an elected official. We can criticize her management style, and I've done a little of that myself, I want to tell you. But she is not your employee, and she answers to the voters, not to you. It's nice that we all have our feelings about how she does or doesn't do things, but our real way to deal with Erica, or any constitutional officer, is to take care of things at the polls. She was elected, she was freely re-elected, and that's where we need to speak to any issues that we have with her. From my perspective and observations, I've seen things in the office that I've observed of my own. I wrote many of them off thinking, well, this is a county job, this is a county office. I guess, people do certain things that they wouldn't do in my office. I ran a profit-oriented law office. I had to make payroll. I couldn't have people who were unproductive or who were doing a lot of this and so forth. And I don't have any axe to grind against any of the folks that are gone. I miss 3 out of the 5 of them were good friends for years, and I miss having them there. I still consider them friends. But there were issues that had to be dealt with. Erica was the elected official for whom they worked. She made her decisions. She made her actions, right or wrong. She did what she thought was best for Montgomery County. And I support that because that's within her right and her responsibility. She's hired 5 exceptional people to replace the 5 who've gone. They're in training. They're doing well. I disagree with Chairman Tuck's opinion that that office has struggled or suffered. Clerks came over from Pulaski just as a mutual aid type of thing, much as Mr. King and I would do on the fire department or rescue. They just came over to voluntarily help. They didn't have to. They just came over to make sure the transition was smooth. In fact, the training has gone so well that that office is functioning just fine. There are no waiting lines. There are no people who aren't served. The job has been done. So that's question number 1. Do you have the right to do that? You don't.
I'm sorry, Mr. Frank. If you want to finish your thought, you may, but however, your 5 minutes is up. I try to let people finish a sentence if you were in the middle of a sentence, if you want to finish.
Let me just finish this and say the other is this right, is this ability to take away her stipend. You guys set rules and regulations, and you don't have the right to do that. And I'm sorry, I've run over. But there's 2 sides to every story. I ask that you consider both sides of that story. Thank you.
And I made a mistake when I started off. I didn't tell everyone that you had 5 minutes. So
I wish I could go into work session and take time to make a proper presentation, but obviously the rules are what they are. But you've got my summary in my letter, and I'd appreciate you paying attention.
Our next speaker is going to, and it looks like Mary Allison Galloway. Ms. Galloway, if you would please state your name and address, and you've got 5 minutes.
Mary Allison Galway, 606 Allegheny Street, Blacksburg, Virginia. I wish I could do a nice pony show too, but my concern is precedent. What if the Board of Supervisors disagrees or takes offense in the future with other constitutional officers? they also get stipends. What if they start to feel like they have to tiptoe around the opinions of whichever party or group has a majority on the Board of Supervisors in order to protect their paycheck? When you start talking about people's wallets, that's a huge influence on their attitude and their sense of being backed up. Will the Board of Supervisors be overseeing all the decisions of all the constitutional officers now? Will Montgomery County develop a reputation of interference in the workings of the constitutional offices in general, but especially in hiring and firing? And also, especially a reputation of preferring a religious affiliation of these employees and their religious beliefs, and also the political aspirations of individual supervisors. You are not the micromanagers of the constitutional offices and their staffs. They are elected by the voters of Montgomery County. There are other offices of treasurer, sheriff, accounting something. The constitutional officer, clerk of the circuit court, has the right and the authority to rehire or fire any, all, or none of the employees of that office, and should not be threatened or damaged by the Board of Supervisors or individual supervisors. This is a huge precedent that you're taking. This is a huge decision. It's not just one woman and her style of supervision. This is a structural change in how the Board of Supervisors operates in conjunction with the constitutional offices of this county. And what you're doing is making a big statement about which other counties, constitutional offices, and people who think about running for offices are going to consider. It's huge. It's not just how many hours the clerk spends in her office, while also working outside the office. If she were just doing her work inside an office and swiping in and swiping out, that's what factory workers do. That's what workers who work by the hour do. And if you had to swipe in and swipe out of this center, would you want to be explaining that? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The next speaker is Devon Bledsoe, and if I mispronounced your first name, I apologize. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, Devon is correct. Devon Bledsoe, 706 Crestwood Drive, Blacksburg, Virginia.
Slow down just a touch. We won't hit the 5 minutes yet. You talked very quickly in regards to giving your address. If you would slow down just a little bit.
Sure.
Vicki would greatly appreciate it.
Sure, 706 Crestwood Drive, Blacksburg.
Thank you.
Welcome. The subject I'd like to discuss this night I've brought up before, which is the pollution that comes from the Radford Army ammunition plant. The data's out again, and yet again the arsenal leads the state in the amount of toxic emissions that are being put into the New River and into our air. It's a serious issue that I think deserves the attention of this board. There was an occasion in 2006 when the Virginia DEQ came before this board to talk about an article that had appeared citing that Montgomery County has some of the worst air quality in the state. At that time, the DEQ did not share with the board that they had begun writing the permit for the open burning of hazardous waste at the Radford Arsenal in 2005. So the Bradford Arsenal has been burning hazardous toxic waste since 1941. They originally burned it on the soil there, 150 feet from the river with the sinkholes and everything. And then they did elevate it onto pans, which is an improvement. But unfortunately, that process of taking what averages to be a half a ton a day of munitions constituents and other hazardous waste from the tenants there, such as Grigi Fireworks, Alexander Arms, New River Energetics. They load it onto pans. They load it onto pans, then they soak each pan with 12.5 gallons of diesel fuel and then light it on fire. It's just as primitive as it sounds, and in 41 it probably made some sense. But the fact of the matter is, in 1988, the EPA came out with a regulation specific to the burning of military munitions. It's the Code of Federal Regulations 40 CFR Part 264, Subpart X. In that regulation, they directed that the Department of Defense may dispose of hazardous waste by open burning until and unless an alternative method becomes available. And an alternative method is available. It's called a contained burn chamber. Several American companies make these chambers. Most recently in the state of Louisiana, around Camp Minden, they purchased a burn chamber from El Dorado Systems. It's being put in place as we speak. And that happened because the citizens there living around Camp Minden, which used to be the Louisiana Army ammunition plant, when they were told that they were going to burn waste propellant in their community, the citizens said no, And the county and the towns and the 2 senators and the congressman all said, EPA, how can this be safe? How can this be happening? So eventually, Gina McCarthy, in testimony to Congressman Fleming, explained that it wasn't the EPA that wanted to open burn the waste, it was the Department of Defense. And that's exactly what's happening here. So recently, WVTF ran a story called Taking a Page Out of the Flint Water Crisis. The analogy here is that EPA has been out to the Bradford Arsenal twice. This is the report that came out in 2011. It's called a multimedia inspection. It's something the EPA does fairly infrequently. The idea is for the EPA to get together with the state regulators, review what's happening at any certain facility, and what potential violations may be occurring. In this case, it was a bit odd that the Virginia DEQ only sent one person for that 4-day-long inspection, not the state site manager, they sent one person. But in the end, this report documents numerous serious violations with pictures and paragraphs and detail. No enforcement action ensued after that inspection, so then the EPA took another odd measure, which was to send out their National Enforcement Investigation Center. They spent some time at the Arsenal in February of 2014, and in December of 2014 released this report. This report is heavily redacted, but still, you'll find that they found dioxin coming out of the 2 hazardous waste incinerators. They found numerous serious potential non-compliance issues. Once again, it went back to EPA Region 3, who is responsible for taking
You can finish your sentence, ma'am.
action. But just like in Flint, Michigan, where they didn't enforce the Safe Drinking Water
I'm
Act,
happy to let you finish your sentence, but no, ma'am. I've
here
got to
the
cut you off.
EPA is not
Ma'am,
enforcing the law,
ma'am,
and children are
ma'am,
being
your time is
contaminated.
up. And so I appreciate it. You can sign up again in a couple of weeks, and you'll be able to get another 5 minutes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and I'd like
Ma'am,
to leave some of this information.
You can do that with
For y'all.
Vicki over on the side. She'll be
Talks
more than
about the thyroid disease, which is the
Ma'am,
highest in
ma'am, if you would,
the
please.
state here. The
Ma'am,
rate of thyroid
ma'am,
disease is
if
twice
you
the
would,
national
please.
average.
Thank you very much. The next on our list is Sadie. Is it Gary? did pronounce everything right.
Sadie Gary.
And you have 5 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
Sadie Gary, 305 Webb Street, Apartment L, Blacksburg. I'm a student at Virginia Tech, and I'm a member of a group of students that are interested in local government and have tried to get involved in local elections here in Montgomery County. And tonight I just wanted to express my support of Erica Williams because she's been a big friend to our group. In the past, she's come and spoken to us and taught us about what her office does and even invited us to apply for internships in her office. So she's been really supportive of our work and has encouraged us to get involved in your community, which we see as our community as well. So I just wanted to express my support of Erica and my opinion that you should not reduce her compensation supplement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Michael Abraham.
Thank you.
Mr. Abraham, if you would state your name and address, you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Michael Abraham. I live at 304 Royal Lane in Blacksburg. I'm a citizen of Montgomery County. I've been following with interest the situation in the clerk of the court office, and I offer this observation. My understanding that Erica Williams, some 50 days after her re-election, declined to reappoint 4 members of her staff, and a 5th left voluntarily after failing to come to terms. I don't know why Ms. Williams made this decision. As someone who has been given the responsibility and authority to run organizations myself, I know that it's vital to have people staffing it who support the leader. I suspect that Ms. Williams did not feel the support of her directives that she needed from those people. It's now my understanding Ms. Williams has replaced those vacancies with equally qualified new people, and the office is functioning at a continuing high level. Regardless of how we might feel about Ms. Williams' actions, as I understand it, publicly elected constitutional officers have the authority to staff their departments as they see fit. Turnover or absences in the department alone are not reasons for dismissal or discipline, and does not provide justification for overturning the will of the voters. So this whole affair appears to me, and I'm sure to many others, as partisan political posturing with no possible outcomes for the people of Montgomery County, possible positive outcomes. It appears frivolous, vindictive, and unbecoming of those who are perpetrating it. It's a needless, futile distraction and a waste of time, especially when decisions such as the sale of the old Blacksburg High School site and the new budget are on the table and demand your attention. There's no way a fiscal conservative can justify wasting time and money on this. Many of us, I suspect, including myself, I should say, have been unhappy with the results of some elections. But I respect our system of government, and I accept the results, as all law-abiding citizens should. Mr. King, to reference what you spoke about earlier, the participation of the public at these meetings is commendable, but we also need participation at the voting booth. And when the Board of Supervisors takes it upon themselves to overturn the will of the voters, people are just less inclined to come and vote. If your board has a strong suspicion that Ms. Williams is guilty of a crime or misdemeanor or malpractice, then by all means, I encourage you to continue to pursue this matter and bring charges if necessary. Otherwise, I respectfully suggest that you return to the work the voters sent you here to do and leave Ms. Williams alone so that she can do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alan Moore. Mr. Moore, please state your full name.
And my name is Alan Moore, 1727 Sage Lane in Blacksburg. I'm speaking about economic development potential and personal development potential here in the New River Valley. I've been here over 30 years. I've raised 3 kids here. I'm an entrepreneur, job creator, and also with experience as an environmental scientist. I'm launching a new business here in Blacksburg, and I'm actually concerned about our long-term economic development potential and questioning that decision. It all goes back to our dirty little secret that was alluded to earlier. and involves misconduct by the federal government and the Commonwealth here in the New River Valley, and it really does require action by our local government officials. The Radford Arsenal, we all understand, has a role in our national defense, but we don't have a complete picture of what's going on there due to the misconduct I mentioned earlier. It affects the New River, which we all enjoy. A lot of the fish in the New River can no longer be eaten. And just recently in the Roanoke Times, Giles County officials were quoted as saying that they don't have the manpower to cope with all the dead animals they find along the New River in Giles County. Also, the issue of the open burning ground since 1941 that was alluded to earlier, and toxic releases. Very alarming. In 2014, the EPA's own report on toxic releases shows that the arsenal is no longer the #1 in the state, but in the top 100% percentile in the nation in total toxic releases, total toxic waste generated. Is in the 98th percentile in terms of carcinogens released, the 95th percentile in terms of mutagens, compounds that alter DNA, and the 91st percentile in teratogens, compounds that deform fetuses. There's also been recently released, these are no longer available, but we have a copy of the cancer maps indicating thyroid cancer. We focus on thyroid cancer because that is almost exclusively due to environmental factors. And we see the highest rates of thyroid cancer in the New River Valley. And much of the state is now suppressed. Not many people, you may remember that in 1999, the arsenal was actually listed as an EPA Superfund site. But because of the black eye that it gave our area within a year, our Montgomery County Economic Development Board, our Congressman Rick Boucher, and the operators of the arsenal lobbied to have it removed from the list, despite the fact that the conditions had not changed. In fact, after September 11th, the production at the arsenal is now at record levels, and toxic releases are also at record levels. A particular concern is the lead being burned at the arsenal. Very tiny amounts of lead can affect development of children, and we've seen lead production increase, and now a study by the New River Health District shows that looking at lead found in blood of children, for Floyd we have 0 cases, Giles we have 0 cases, Pulaski we have 0 cases. Downwind from the arsenal in Montgomery County, we have 7 cases. And in Radford, we have 49 cases. Why is that alarming? Because all the zip codes in Montgomery County downwind from the arsenal are Radford zip codes. So again, we look to leadership of the council and follow the model in Minden, as mentioned, which the first step was citizen involvement. The second step was getting local officials engaged. Third step was reaching out to our representatives. We see this as a leadership opportunity for you. Because of the EPA and DEQ refusal to share information with our community, there is growing mistrust and growing momentum, and we hope to encourage you to capture that momentum and engage us in community dialogue. Myself personally, I just want to address one point, again, back to economic development. Often we face resistance.
Your time is up.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. The next speaker on the list is James Jones. If there are other individuals who are going to wish to speak, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and coming up on the front row. We've gone through the list of the speakers who've signed up. But if you are planning on speaking this evening, if you don't mind, if you would just go ahead and start coming up and placing yourself on the front row. Mr. Jones, please state your name and address, and you've got 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is James Jones. I usually go by Jim, and I've been around Montgomery County for 30 plus years. I've heard most people talk about personnel matters at the clerk's office. I'd like to share, I guess, what you would call a business experience over there, and I'll let Marshall have one of my minutes since he ran over earlier. But following I guess a 6-year battle in the courthouse with my ex-wife and a divorce decision, I was appealing the decision when it was brought to my attention that some exhibits were missing from my file. Unfortunately, in that situation, when a file is headed up to the Court of Appeals in Richmond, you're not allowed to add anything to the record. The record's the record, and that's it. The problem with all of this is that those exhibits got missing in 2010. It wasn't discovered until very late at 11. The judge had already made his ruling. I'd already filed an appeal and noted errors in the record when all this came to be. When this is all said and done, there's 11 exhibits, 912 pages that were missing from my file. Obviously, it's a problem, and I subsequently went up with a judgment against me about this. What my problem is that the people that were terminated in the clerk's office were all more than willing to help try to sort out and resolve and find this stuff. But at the end of the day, the judge, the Court of Appeals, nobody above that court was notified. I think we talk about leadership, that Ms. Williams should have stepped forward and issued something to somebody saying, hey, this happened. As you might be aware, in a criminal matter, that would qualify as a mistrial. But nothing was ever said about this. And when all this stuff came up by her about partisan politics, I was beginning to wonder if something wasn't intentionally misplaced there somewhere. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. I've asked others to come forward. I don't know which one of you got there first. Sir, would you please come forward, state your full name and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Sure. My name is Kenneth Hester. I live at 120 Alexa Lane, Christiansburg, and I'll try not to take 5 minutes. I did not plan to speak tonight. For the people I'm supporting, we've done enough talking. We're doing action. That's what we're doing now. But a couple things come up that I couldn't resist just to say my 2 cents. First, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak again, and Chris for your presentation. It was very enlightening. For most of the people in this room, I can't speak for them, but I can say for a lot of them, we understand that Erica had the right to appoint and reappoint anybody she wanted to. That's not the issue. What it did is it opened a lot of our eyes to her judgment and leadership, and that's what most of us are still being persistent with us about. It's not her right to do it. It was the way it was done, and it's brought up basically a Pandora's box of other things. The second thing is the gentleman who was so concerned about being treated has already left, so I guess he didn't want to stay and see the vote. But in the company I worked at for 38 years, we had a lot of customers come in, we had a lot of visitors come in, and if we see people playing games on computers or doing inappropriate things, we wanted to know and hear that. So I wonder if he shared that information with Erica so she could take some sort of action, so she could exhibit leadership and have her staff not do that, especially in a public place. In light of what Chris shows for the attendance, at least through October and December, maybe she wouldn't have seen a lot of it since she was there about 50% of the time. To the lady who spoke about the board micromanaging, I politely disagree with that opinion. All the board is doing is they're not micromanaging, they're just simply questioning if they need to continue to provide additional pay from the board. And as a citizen of this county and a voter, I would like to thank the board for taking an interest in that. I know there are other things, there are more important things, but we all want to know what's the best way to spend the money in this county. And in closing, I'd like to bring up a short story about Alan. I think that Chris brought up that Alan was not a computer person, but was very personable. My wife and I moved here in 2012, December. The following fall, Alan, with his own money, bought my son Paul and I tickets to the Virginia Tech Maryland football game. He knew that we were both Maryland fans, still are. We respect Virginia Tech and love them, but a chance to see Maryland beat Virginia Tech was worth the money. He bought this for us. Maryland won that game. Alan was very appreciative. He just wanted to welcome us. He said it was our welcome to Virginia gift. So that's the kind of person that Alan was for me personally. With that, I'll just close. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes? And again, if there's other speakers, I'm going to ask you to come forward and thank you. Please state your full name and your address.
Do I have to see my address?
You do.
prior incidents.
It has been the board policy for individuals to state their address as long as I've been on the
It's
board,
just-
and I'm looking towards our more
It's
experienced
just
members.
a safety issue.
To
If
my
you
knowledge,
would-
we've never had a request like that, so I don't know.
If it is a safety issue, would you mind providing it in writing to Ms. Sweeney, so if she needs to respond to you, she would have an address to be able to respond? Typically, we get information and that we need, how about an email address that we could respond to?
Okay, sure. I give you email address.
Okay.
The police patrol at my house every day due to the safety concerns, so I prefer not to give out my address.
Ma'am, I'm going to go ahead and
Okay.
if you would mind stating your name.
My name is Katrina Milburn.
Okay, and you've got 5 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, you want my email address?
If you could.
Okay, it's Katrina, my first name, Katrina, MIL55@yahoo.com.
And ma'am, are you a resident of Montgomery County?
Oh, yes, I am. I
Thank
live in
you.
District
You have
E.
5 minutes.
Okay. I have been on the Democratic Committee for a little over a year now. I'm Vice Chairman for District E. I just resigned due to a lot of issues. I put aside the unethical things that Erica has done personally to me. I'm going to talk about her in the Summer Solstice Festival when I helped her campaign. And she saved me when we went to the Friends of Animal Control to volunteer and give out cotton candy. She made a statement to me when we were chatting, and she said, and I quote, "Anyone who does not want to support me during my campaign can find me jobs once I'm reelected." And I will swear under oath, and I've posted that, and she knows about this, and I've asked her to come forward and swear under oath that she did not say that, and she's yet to do that. Second of all, recently, on February 10th, I tried calling the clerk's office starting around 1 o'clock due to a voicemail that was regarding another unethical thing that Erica Williams did. So I called for over an hour. I called every single line. I called probably 20 times at least. Not a single person answered. Called General District Court, one ring, someone answered. So then I get a call back around 3:02 p.m. saying that there was 4 missed calls from me, so I guess they have caller ID. This is after I posted on Facebook. So no, the clerk's office is not being ran. The person I spoke to had no clue what was going on. Had no clue. On July 27th, 1:14 p.m., I messaged Erica Williams. This is when we were friends, asking about Alan and what his favorite Coke or what his favorite drink or snack was. And she responded in a text message, which I have, Alan Worrell, he likes regular Coke and any kind of food. And then she said, "Thank you for being so kind." Alan was amazing. Alan, every time you walked in, he welcomed you. And I would bring him a Coke and a little candy bar to say thank you. I brought the clerk's office flowers to say thank you for the clerks, for Crystal and Alan, who helped me out the most. And Erica whispered in my ear, "Oh, I'm going to put these in my office." So the clerks at the circuit court office, Alan and Crystal mainly I dealt with, I enjoyed going there. Now, I can't even get a hold of anyone. I can't even talk to someone because they have no clue. Alan, I would walk in and Alan would be like, "So how was your vacation?" You know, he was warming, he was welcoming. There's a lot of unethical things that Erica has done, but that's something that I've obtained an attorney about, and that's going to be going forward. But as a Democrat, I'm very, very heartbroken that many people have known about this and not supported anything, especially what she said. And she has helped cover up an assault, which is going to come out later. And I've addressed every Democrat except for Annette. I told them about this before. I was going to speak just to let them be aware of this. More will come out. I just can't say too much right now. I told the chairman of the Democratic Committee, and now I'm resigned because I'm very ashamed of how they treated this. So I just wanted to, I guess, I didn't plan on speaking. I don't have a speech, but I know that Erica did quote that to me. I know exactly where we were. I have pictures of us during summer solstice at the Friends of Animal Control booth, and I know exactly how she quoted this. And these people do not deserve to be let go.
Thank you. Sir?
My name is Jeff Fall. I live at 5344 McCoy Road, Blacksburg. I'd like to say first that I am one of the ones that's going around with the petition. And I will say that I've had probably more Democrats say that they felt like they were misled in what she campaigned for. They did not think that she followed up on what she campaigned she was going to do. I'd also like to say, somebody has said about micromanaging the other departments. Well, if the sheriff's department fired half of their deputies and you need somebody to come to your house, do you want to wait for a deputy from Pulaski County to come down and help you? If the commissioner's office, they fire their people and they can't collect our tax money and distribute it where it needs to go, what are we going to do then? The taxpayers pay the money. It's y'all's responsibility to see that it's done right. Regardless of where you stand politically, it doesn't make any difference. You control our money. And it should be accountable to do the right thing. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Julia Lewis, 1173 Oakland Square, Blacksburg, and I live in District E. I am just absolutely appalled that you on the Board of Supervisors are spending all this time investigating Erica Williams. You have absolutely no jurisdiction over the clerk's office. And maybe she didn't handle this quite right. But nevertheless, it is not your business to do this. And we have elected you to do the business of the county, and it does not mean that you should get into the what is happening in all the, 4 constitutional offices. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other speakers who wish to come forward? Going once? Going twice? I'm going to go ahead and close public address at this point in time.
I'd like to have a break.
At this point in time, we're going to take about a 10-minute break. We'll come back. Is 10 minutes enough, Annette?
Yep.
All right, we'll come back.
If nobody gets there before me.
I tell you what, we'll make it 15 minutes. We'll
Has
do
to
it,
be a little levity here, you know.
We'll go back to come back in session in 15 minutes. Okay. Mr. Administrator, do we have an addendum?
No, sir, no addendum this evening.
Is there a motion in regards to consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins? Aye. Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs? Aye. Mr. Mox?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next matter is old business performance agreement between the County of Montgomery Economic Development Authority and Fieldstone Senior LP and Fieldstone Family Partners LP supporting the development of affordable workforce and senior housing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Where are my glasses?
Hang on.
Oh, here.
Hold on one second. And I believe it's starting down your way. Is there any discussion, Mr. Shepherd?
I don't.
Mr. Motts?
I don't know if anybody on the board remembers prior to my election, I sent a very long letter in support of this. So I don't have any discussion. I'm excited to see it moving forward.
Same here.
Mr. Creed?
I'm good.
Ms. Perkins? Mr. King?
Craig, did you get to answer what I asked you today?
I did. Thank you. There was a Supervisor King had raised a question about a couple of the residents that were there. There was some concern in the old Blacksburg Estates, Small Lawn Park. Those residents have been relocated. Emily's here. Emily talked with the folks in Blacksburg, and they said it's all been resolved and there's no outstanding issues.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
As far as in regards to this, I didn't vote in favor of it, but once the board has stepped forward and committed this board, I think it would be inappropriate, once we've said we're going to do something, to come back and then vote and say, no, we aren't going to do it after folks have relied on that commitment. So I'm going to vote in favor of it as well. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. DeMoss?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Going into new business, resolution eliminating the compensation supplement for the position of the clerk of the Circuit Court of Montgomery County. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Yes.
All right, I think I started with Darrell, so I'm going to,
I'm there. Because I'm on bypass anyway, until.
okay, well, Mr. King, do you have anything you would like to say?
Just a quick thing. As I said before, I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate the phone calls I got, the visits I got. And I want to tell you a little story back years ago. My first board supervisor meeting, they're still at the courthouse. They was talking about raising real estate taxes. Well, the room was full, the hallway was full, and they voted to raise taxes. First thing I heard out of somebody, there's no use in coming to meetings if they don't listen to you. Well, I want people to understand I'm listening to you. And thank you very much for coming. That's all.
Pass me by. I'll come back.
Mr. Creed?
Pass me with her.
Ms. Biggs?
Okay, hope you guys can bear with me because normally I don't do this, but I want to read to you because I knew that I needed to put my thoughts down on paper. I've thought a great deal about what I might say tonight. My thoughts seem to fall out under 4 questions I asked myself. How did we get here? What do we do now? Where does this leave us? And what does this mean for the future? So what follows are my thoughts surrounding the resolution on our agenda tonight. I would ask that you please bear with me as I present them to you. First, how did we get here? The clerk of court did not reappoint certain members of her staff, and one staff member decided to leave. Legally, Mrs. Williams can make appointments, reappointments, or non-reappointments. Citizens then came to our Board of Supervisors meeting and emailed us their concerns and thoughts about the actions of the clerk and how those actions affected the clerk's office. We discussed the fact as a Board of Supervisors that we have no control of constitutional officers' appointments, reappointments, and non-reappointments of staff members to their respective offices. Now, enter into the discussion the fact that on February 28, 2000, a resolution was passed by the Board of Supervisors at that time, with Ms. Perkins and I both voting yes, to approve an agreement that in part offered each constitutional officer and their employees the opportunity to participate in the county's compensation and classification plans. This agreement was passed to help with inconsistencies that existed between the counties and the Virginia's Compensation Board's compensation and classification systems that had resulted in disparities that affected the workplace here in our county. For example, it was brought to our attention by the sheriff at that time, Doug Mars, that deputies were being trained at the county's expense and then leaving for higher paying positions in law enforcement. That would include Virginia Tech, the town of Christiansburg, the town of Blacksburg, and Radford. We also had employees in our county offices and constitutional offices performing the same job duties, but being compensated differently. The idea was to try to correct disparities between jobs and to help the county be more competitive in the job market. Memorandums of agreement were created and signed by constitutional officers, the Board of Supervisors Chair, and the County Administrator. In these agreements, it states that the, quote, constitutional officer shall continue to be included as an exempt service employee within the county service in recognition of their status as an elected official, which precludes their total inclusion as a regular employee as defined in Section 1.10 of the Personnel Policies Manual. Further, employees of this officer will be exempt from the county's employee grievance procedure, end quote. Nowhere is it stated in the resolution we passed in 2000 or the memorandum of agreements that the Board of Supervisors will evaluate constitutional officers, which legally we can't, and then withhold supplements based on our evaluations. Secondly, what do we do now? Yes, we have the right as a board to take the money away, as our attorney has stated previously. But he has also shared with us that, quote, no decision by the board should be based on any preconceived judgment or opinion formed without just grounds or before sufficient knowledge is obtained or because of a dislike for someone based on race, gender, age, nationality, or religion, end quote. The part that resonates in my thinking is before sufficient information is obtained. Here lies one issue for me, fairness. As a former teacher, I always stress hearing both sides of a story or dispute from the individuals involved before any action is taken. We have heard from citizens on both sides, but Mrs. Williams herself has not been able to respond due to these issues being personnel issues. I would think Mrs. Williams' sharing of personnel information could take place if the recall petition goes forward to be heard in a court situation. But we as a board at this point in time do not have the other side of the story. So where does this leave us? We can vote to take away Mrs. Williams' supplemental pay starting in March because we can, even though I personally think sufficient knowledge has not been obtained. Or we can vote not to do this at this time. We can vote to take her pay away to show displeasure for the action she took that legally she could take. But what would that accomplish? Would the non-reappointed individuals be reappointed, or would the idea be just to single out and punish the clerk for her actions? Third, what does this mean for the future? If our board wants to become one that evaluates or judges constitutional officers by giving or withholding their supplemental pay, shouldn't this be a discussion at budget time? The original resolution has been in place for the last 16 years and did not contain the component of evaluation in regards to supplemental money. And we are looking to change its intent and use it in a different way based on board meetings of the last 2 months. Does this benefit our working relationship with our constitutional officers so that we have open communications with each other and understand the needs and responsibilities all of us face as elected officials who are here to serve the citizens of Montgomery County? So in closing, after thinking through this issue, I do empathize with the individuals that no longer have their jobs, but I cannot support the proposed resolution to take away the clerk's supplement because I think it sets a precedent that could possibly be challenged in court. And I would suggest if our board wants to pursue a discussion of supplements to constitutional officers and their employees, we do so at budget time and perhaps solicit the constitutional officers' thoughts on this issue. Since all of this has happened, the constitutional officers might prefer not to be included in supplements. The way things stand now, the question could be asked by any of our constitutional officers, who is next to lose his or her supplement? As Martin Luther King once said, quote, "The time is always right to do what is right," end quote. And my personal opinion, based on the information I have before me now, is that taking away one constitutional officer supplement is not the right thing to do. And the issue of supplements to constitutional officers should be discussed during our budget discussions. Thank you.
Ms. DeMont?
I too have some prepared remarks to read. We received a lot of citizen comment and emails on this subject in the past few weeks and even the past couple of months. Some emails are calling for us to take action and remove the supplement, while some are urging us to be more thoughtful in our decision making and leave things as they are. In weighing the facts of the decision, I want to share with you some of the excerpts of emails we have received. First, not only has she, Erica, showed exemplary leadership in this job, but she is a fairly elected official. I doubt that any of us are privy to the reasons for her actions on personnel issues. Next, people are often quick to judge and complain. At our clerk's office, there is currently no reason for complaint. Next, there is no indication of providing or not providing stipends based on merit. My research suggests that singular action against one recipient of the stipend is an arbitrary and capricious use of your power as a public body. Next, as a constitutional officer, Erica Williams has the right to appoint the staff that she chooses. I believe our clerk of court did not make her decisions lightly, and I believe that each of these employees knows exactly as to why they were not reappointed. And finally, the Board of Supervisors may open itself to lawsuits. I fear that you are in the process of overstepping your bounds and that your actions ultimately may be injurious and costly to the citizens of Montgomery County. Some of my own responses to these emails have included similar concerns. In fact, I fear that we are opening the door for a lawsuit if we proceed with this action. Further, the legal fees and related costs associated with such action could result in a price tag to Montgomery County taxpayers significantly higher than the savings associated with any punitive action we take tonight. Again, I'll say, we are exposing ourselves to a very valid and very real threat of a lawsuit if we proceed on this matter. The memorandums that are in place with our constitutional officers do not call for evaluation, oversight, or retaliation by this board. This action is, in my mind, an abuse of power, and I do not support it. Finally, though I sympathize with the individuals that were not reappointed, I do think it is necessary to point out that each of these jobs come with a set term of employment. These terms expired on December 31st, 2015. Nobody was fired from the Circuit Court Clerk's office. Rather, contracts were not renewed and offers of reappointment were not made. This is helpful information to understand as we try to understand why Ms. Williams made her decisions. Perhaps Ms. Williams wanted to have a staff that believes in and supports her future vision for her office. Perhaps she's entitled to have a team in place that works cohesively and follows her lead. Regardless, our role is not to evaluate or manage constitutional officers. I question the direction this board may be taking and am very concerned about how actions taken tonight will negatively impact the working relationships between Montgomery County's elected officials, constitutional officers, and employees moving forward. We could be setting a very bad precedent.
Mr. Shepherd.
Well, I don't have a written speech. There's a couple things I'd like to say. I think every public official should be held accountable. I think the state mandates the amount of money that they are required to receive. We have to fulfill that. I don't think we're evaluating her. I think there's a difference between evaluation and accountability. Her evaluations of her employees, the last one I saw up there was from 2011. I worked for a chief one time that said, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. That being said, even if she wanted to respond to the request for those evaluations or why her reasoning, she couldn't because she don't have record of it, not in a public place. I've been out talking to people in the community ever since this started. I've talked to Democrats and Republicans, and I hate that this is a split issue. I'm sorry that that's happened. It's not my intent at all, because I can assure you that there's a lot of Democrats in District E that feel the same way that I do.
Thank you. We'll go back to you, Ms. Perkins.
Yes. The first thing I want to do is to apologize. My email, computer, iPad, everything has been down for a couple weeks. So I have not been able to respond to those people who have sent me emails to respond to you, and for that I apologize to you. IT here has been working very diligently trying to get me back to the internet, and thus far they have not been successful in doing that. But as soon as my computer and the iPad that we have and whatever I have is corrected, then I will assure you that I will try to answer each one of you individually. So I apologize for that. The second thing I want to say is that I also apologize for the last meeting we had. I was starting out with some rhetorical questions, which exactly what Mrs. Biggs was doing, and I didn't intend to have anybody answer those, but when you did, then I was criticized roundly, not only by my colleagues, but by others saying, oh, you shouldn't have done that because that brought, too much response on the part of the audience. And I understand that you all were very emotionally involved in this, those that came that last meeting. And I also understand how important it is to you for us to respond to you. So for those two things, I do apologize. The thing that I want to say to you, I have given many, many hours thinking about this situation, and it has bothered me tremendously. I know that sometimes we all think that we just make decisions and that's that. And the last time when I was talking, I said I'm not concerned particularly about the money. What I am concerned about is the lack of real information about what has gone on. Now, much of what we have said, much of what we have heard, it wouldn't stand up in a court of law. For instance, what about her attendance in her office? Well, now we know that she was there X number of days. Mr. Tuck, our chair, gave us that in his presentation tonight. But why was she out? We also know about and that's a rhetorical question not meant to be answered, because there are all sorts of reasons. Illness, family illness, you can go right down the line. Working with other clerks, teaching classes, there are lots of reasons as to why she might have been there. I don't really know, so that's one area where we don't really have a lot of information as to the why. Now, maybe some of you who have spent more time in the clerk's office for deeds or whatever it might be, maybe you know more than I do. But to this point in time, no one has singled that out. And when we look at 155% turnover, I would say that when Ms. Biggs and I were on the board and we agreed to give, first of all, a bonus to our deputies and then try to maintain those people with us, we really had a tremendous turnover. And that was part of the reason, because the sheriff came to us and said, we train them, we pay for them, and then they go off and find a better job. Well, that happens too. Working for Montgomery County Public Schools for a long time, we had great turnover in our custodial staff. But that was because they could go to other places close by and get more pay. So, yes, there obviously was a turnover, but why? I guess that's the question I've been wrestling with the entire time, along with the other one. Why? And then the other thing I've wrestled with, and believe me, I've spent long nights, and Ms. Biggs can testify to the fact that there have been several nights when I haven't slept at all. The question is why? Why are we doing this? Why are we spending our time and resources? Now, I know some people say, well, it's our taxpayer money. Well, I'm a taxpayer. And I'm thinking, okay. And then I have thought, okay, 4 people were not reappointed. I don't know why. Yes, in certain ways, they may have, good personnel records. But something bothers me about that whole thing. Because I don't know why it is that Ms. Williams decided to release these people. But anybody who's dealt with personnel knows that in any organization, I don't care what it is, personnel is the one stumbling block that you run into. Sometimes you do let people go, not because they don't know their job, but because they just aren't in tune. I don't know why these people left. Maybe you know because you know the people. So I'm sort of like Ms. Biggs in a way that we're trying to do something without sufficient information. Now that doesn't mean that we don't think you're telling the truth. I even have some people here in this audience who used to be students of mine. And I think I've always tried to be truthful with them and with everybody else. We talked about precedents. That bothered me. Why are we doing this particular thing when she is doing exactly what she has the legal authority to do? Now, some people will say that, oh, it may be legal, but it's not right. Not right according to whose value system? Now, I think all of us know what's right and what's wrong. At least that's what my daddy used to tell me. And that you know what's right to do in this situation. Where did he base his? He based his on the good book. Now, I have looked at the memo of understanding. I have looked at this resolution we have. And it's just 3 simple statements. Well, at this point, it's legal. And we're going to do it. And we're going to take away part of her supplement. Now, we give on this board great consideration to people who come to us asking for help, nonprofits. And you probably have done it yourself for whether it's fire and rescue or what it is. Do we evaluate, if you want to use that term, or do we go and ask when we gave $10,000 to CI Institute because they needed some help with getting started again? Have we asked them, well, what did you do with that money? We're not going to give you any more. Well, maybe that's something that we've got to think about more. So I have to say to all of you that I agree with April that there is a big precedent here. And if we get sued, we'll get sued. And you know as well as I do, that used to be a big thing. My dad said all you have to do is have a handshake. And you trust the person that he was a businessman and he operated. He couldn't do that today because number one, he had to go out and hire a tax man and hire an attorney. You know, there is so much here. I would just tell you that I do believe that we have come to a situation on our board and probably in the national government and our state government where two political parties say we don't cooperate anymore. And it really, really, I have sat here and I've said, why? Why is this happening? Why is this happening here? I can't come up with a good reason. I understand that people were let go, and I understand that has hurt many of you. And I don't need to go into personal comments about things like that. And I appreciate every single one of you that's here. Some of you have lambasted me, but that's okay. You're in the middle of a very emotional scene. But now think about this. If you're going to deal with the legal actions here, 4 people were let go. They weren't reappointed, which was Miss Williams' prerogative. One other person decided not to be a part of it. And so, yes, you're upset. And as Ms. Biggs said, where do we go from here? I don't know. Do you? I don't know. I think that what we all need to do is to step back, take another look at this, and decide, is this what we as a Board of Supervisors is supposed to do? Now, accountability to whom? Ms. Williams is accountable to the voters. They elected her. I'm accountable to the voters. I'm accountable for the use of county money. But when I think that it almost comes down to, and I'm not saying this does happen, but when it almost comes down to an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, my book says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I say unto you, love your enemies. I say unto you, do not, people who despitefully use you, don't do the same to them. And I'm seeing it that way, and I'm sorry, but that's the way I see it. So consequently, I see that she is not accountable to us for the way she runs her office. Whether she did it right or wrong, I don't know. People challenged me for last week's, 2 weeks ago, saying, you shouldn't have done that. People right here, my colleagues, said you shouldn't have done that. But I did. And I've apologized. And I also want you to know that anytime you want to come and ask me any question, I'm open to that question. But I want to tell you, in my heart, I cannot take away her money. Now, some of us are confused. And I'm taking 15 minutes because Chris took 15 minutes. And I'm older than he is. But I just want to say, when all is said and done, what have we gained? What have we gained? What have we done for the county when all is said and done? Now, I appreciate your points of view. I appreciate the people who have advised us. I appreciate our attorney, our commissioner, our county administrator. I appreciate what people have said to me. But I'm telling you, and this comes straight from my value system and from my heart, we have no right, because we really don't know, and I'm not sure how many of us do, what really transpired other than what people have said to us or told us. Now, I don't know the people who have been not reappointed, but I will say to you, it's not my job to tell Ms. Williams how to run her office or to do what she thinks is right in that office. I'm really deeply concerned. And I'm not sure what we've gained when we go through all of this. Are we being vindictive? Are we being hateful? What are we doing? I have no way to judge that either, so I can't say anything about that. But I am concerned that this has gotten to, and I can't think of any reason why 4 Republicans say yes and 3 Democrats say no. And you know what? I don't know Erica that well. I know she is accountable to the voters. And I agree with Ms. Biggs that we're going to have to look at, because of this situation, 4 other constitutional officers may indeed lose their supplements. What have we gained, and where does it take us? So, I guess you can understand that in my heart of hearts, I cannot vote to take this money away. I know many of you won't like it, and I'm not worried about my job. If in the future the voters don't want me in District 8, then that's their prerogative. What I am worried about is, what are we doing to one person that goes across the board to many, many other people? So, I guess you would say that I've missed my calling. Maybe I should have been a preacher and had a little bit more time to explain to people how I feel. But I want you to know Whether I agree with you or disagree with you, I accept what you say. And you're not going to find me complaining about you. But I do think that this is probably the most unusual situation I have ever encountered in my 18 years on this board. But thank you, just as Todd said, thank you for coming. Thank you for letting us know that you care about your friends. But go home and look at your book, your sacred book, and then find out what's going on. I thank you very much, and I can say when we get around to voting, have I used my 15 minutes?
Ms. Perkins, I've never shut anyone off, even if I disagree with them. You have as much time as you want, and I'm not going to stop you from saying anything. You've got plenty of time.
I'm finished. You've heard what I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Creed, I know you passed. Do you have anything that you would like to say?
Of course. Oh, man. I guess I had better get this right, because if I don't, my constituents down to foot of the hill will scout me or something. I don't know. But they will. As in the Bible, if you want to take a look at the Bible, it says, "My cup runneth over." And surely goodness and mercy shall follow me the rest of my life. So I guess I'm going to be all right after all. But anyhow, as Mr. Perkins said very well, there are 4 Democrats on this table and 4 Republicans on this table and 3 Democrats. And I'm ready to vote myself. Thank you.
I do have a few things I would like to say. First, I would like to thank our county attorney. When I got on this board, I promised I wasn't going to practice law. I would encourage our board members not to try to practice law while they're sitting up here. We have a county attorney who's provided us excellent legal services. He gave us a legal breakdown. He said, you know what? That petition, that's not to do with you guys. But he said that we have the legal right to take the money away. He explained to us what arbitrary and capricious was in great detail. That means that unless we're discriminating against people because of their race, their religion, if I was voting on this so my wife could become clerk, that might be arbitrary and capricious. And so I would caution my board members, as I try to caution myself, don't practice law. Rely on the staff to provide you legal analysis. As I recall from what Mr. McMahon said, we are on solid legal footing, and while he cannot guarantee you anyone won't sue. I may be sued tonight for sneezing on somebody, but at the same time, we are on good legal footing.
And don't look at me. I'm not the only person.
I'm just glancing that way, Miss Perkins. I apologize. I didn't mean to be looking your way alone. In regards to the clerk, why are we here? In my mind, this is not how I wanted to start my chairmanship. I had no idea that the clerk was going to let folks go, that this is going to be the issue that we're going to be doing. I'm saddened by it. As I said before, I've always tried to look at things and tried to look at ideas. Why did I agree to meet with Erica 2 years ago? It's because I wanted to see her do well, and I wanted to see her serve the citizens well. But one of the things that we have a responsibility is how our money is spent. And Todd hit the nail on the head. We have a duty to make sure it's well spent. And when we're spending $21,000 and someone has let half their staff go, and I asked Ms. Biggs and I asked Nick, why did we put this in? Because of the high turnover rate in the sheriff's office. And if we have a 155% turnover rate in 8 years, that's concerning to me.
When I look at the clerk's office and I see the general district clerks, and I realize that their least experienced person would be the second most experienced person, that concerns me. Someone in the legal community, I tell them, new secretary, it'll take you a year to learn a job. Relax. I've heard the same thing in the clerk's office. Sometimes it'll take several years. It will take years for us to recover. So those are the things, and as far as what we have gained, we are sending a message, and I called up Mary Pettit. I said, tonight, I'm going to tell you, if you fire half your staff, and we have to get attorneys from the other side of or other counties, I'm not going to be looking at giving you a supplement. I'll look back at Hank, and I'll tell you, Mr. Parton, if you fire half your staff, and then we have to get folks in, I'm not going to be voting for you to have a supplement in any other constitutional office. And maybe that's, we have to pay them a certain amount, but if we're going to pay them extra, we expect extra. And that's where I'm at. Now I'm going to give, I know I've spoken last, and I've always tried to give folks the opportunity to respond on our board. And so I think I started on this side. I'm going to start with Darrell. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we vote?
I don't think so. I believe we've talked enough.
Mr. Motts?
I agree with Mr. Shepherd.
Ms. Biggs?
No, I would like my comments so to be made part of the permanent minutes.
I'll be happy for all of our comments to be made part of the permanent minutes. I know that's a big burden on the clerk, and so it may take us, we may be a few meetings back behind, but we can make everyone a part of that. Mr. Creed? Ms. Perkins, is there anything else?
No, I think I said it all.
Mr. King?
Just one thing. I want to tell Craig, Marty, and Carol, and the rest of the staff in the county, I apologize for dragging you into this. Honestly, bottom of my heart, I do. I apologize. I know you caught grief, and I wished it could have been different. I do apologize.
And I believe there's been a first and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
No.
Mr. Motts?
No.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
No.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
Have 4 ayes, 3 no.
All right, the next matter is school operating budget transfer between categories for the purchase of a special education bus. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? I know that there's a lot of folks moving around. I wanted to make sure. Mary, did you hear that there was a first and a second? Okay. Is there any questions or discussion?
Maybe wait till it dies down.
All right.
Disclosure that you do, but you
And Darrell?
Where are we now?
still vote.
We are on
On new
B,
business?
school operating budget transfer between categories, purchase of a special education bus.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Tuck, who made the second?
I got the motion.
I'm not sure who made the second.
I didn't hear.
I'm looking around.
Wasn't me.
I do.
Okay. Gary made the second. All right. Is there any discussion in regards to this issue? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
I need to disclose that I work for the county, for the school bus, for the school board office, but my decision benefits me no more than it does any other employee.
He's also one of many that would be.
Right? So, aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Item C, resolution of appreciation, Snowville Volunteer Fire Department. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
County Attorney's Report.
No report, Mr. Chair.
County Administrator's Report.
Just one, excuse me, just one item. I want to thank Supervisor King, Supervisor Perkins, Chair Tuck, Supervisor Biggs, and Supervisor DeMotts for traveling to Richmond week before last to meet with our legislative delegation and to have conversations about issues of county interest with the General Assembly. We were very fortunate to get to talk to staff from every legislator and several legislators directly, and hopefully it made some difference. We'll see as things come forth in the next week or so, but appreciate you folks taking the time. That's not an easy trip, and that's all I have.
I believe, let me get back to it. Supervisor, board member reports. Supervisor Creed.
No report.
Supervisor Biggs.
I would like to add on the lobby day, an interesting facet this time was having the ability to meet with the Lieutenant Governor in his office building to discuss local issues, and it was amazing how a group of individuals from across the state that are Board of Supervisor members, including all of us that were able to participate, had a lot of the same common interest and concern. So I wanted I thank the Lieutenant Governor for that, because that was an interesting dialogue. The only other thing, like I've been sending you all the write-ups from the school board and the library board, but I just wondered who signed up to come to the next school board meeting in March, I believe. Did anyone sign on board?
I think you done good, so you can continue.
Okay, well, I'll have to look that up.
I said that I would do March and April.
Okay. All right, and then the only other thing, the thing that came up about the Radford Arsenal, I remember a part of a discussion in 1999 about this. Can our staff see if there's anything that we can do, or can we do anything like the people in Louisiana did? I don't know. Like, you know, the concern about the air pollution and the water, I don't know what can be really done about that, but since that was brought up, I just wondered, and it's been in the newspaper too, can we do anything? Is there anything that we can do as a local government?
I'm happy to have staff take a look at that. I know there may be some folks who want to come before the board to make a presentation. We can maybe look at that. However, would it be all right, we're going to have budget for the whole month of March.
Right.
Can we look at maybe if we're going to give staff a break and not have them take a look at that until maybe after March? Is
That's
that
fine. But,
okay.
but just so we have it there, yeah. Thank you.
And Supervisor DeMont.
Oh, and did everyone get this? I forgot to ask that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because we grabbed a bunch of them, Craig and I. Okay.
Supervisor DeMont.
I have kind of a long report.
That's okay.
I apologize in advance. There were several things. This Saturday, I received several phone calls on issues outside of just what we've been getting a lot of emails on. And so I did quite a bit of research this weekend. The first thing that I want to ask, probably to you, Craig, is have we investigated filing for consulting party status with FERC? And if not, can we? My understanding is this will allow access to privileged information and assessments, and if I understood it correctly, it may also allow us to serve in a consulting role when it comes to impacts on cultural heritage and historical sites in the path of MVP.
Marty, we've had a conversation.
Yeah, we'll look into that and see what we need to do.
We've had a conversation. I know Roanoke County and Giles have taken that step.
Yes. We're interveners, but we can be interveners and have consulting parties
as well.
Okay.
Giles and Roanoke had they've hired an outside attorney.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point. I know Giles definitely has, and Roanoke has as well. They've retained Water and Power out of California. They specialize in FERC issues, so I was wondering if we could untangle that. I know they're also in that with Preserve Craig. Giles County has put up $10,000. Preserve Craig has put up $20,000. I'm not sure if Roanoke has put up any money, but having a 4-county block with an attorney that specializes in FERC issues might become important.
We'll be glad to investigate that.
So that's all on Mountain Valley Pipeline. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, as we are moving into budget season, this is a request. I would like to look at or discuss unfreezing the long-range planning position in the planning department. It's my understanding that we have one long-range planning position frozen. If unfrozen, this position could play a vital role in accomplishing some of our goals outlined in Montgomery County's comprehensive plan. One area of my particular interest, just to be transparent with all of you, is achieving some of the goals in the environmental resource chapter as it relates to karst mapping, cave and coal mine identification, and mapping of those as well, identification of cultural resources and historical sites, and location of unique environmental resources. I think we have some future growth and development pressure coming our way, and having those types of goals that are outlined in our comprehensive plan achieved by fulfilling the long-range planning position might benefit us in long-range planning and development planning going forward. And then I've got two more. Told y'all it was long, and I apologize. Next, I do want to thank everybody for entertaining a discussion this evening in our closed session on the old Blacksburg High School site, and I just wanted to make it part of the public record that it's important to me that those conversations continue going forward regularly, and the board has agreed to that, so I think that's good to note. And then the last item on my list is I would like to talk about something possibly at an upcoming PSA meeting, so I'm looking at you, Mr. King, talking with Mr. Frank about perchlorate. Perchlorate has a potential to cause endocrine system and reproductive problems. It's considered a likely human carcinogen by the EPA, and it's my understanding that some well water in the county is already testing positive for perchlorate. Some of the speakers tonight talked to us about thyroid cancer and the incidence, the greater incidence of that we have here in the New River Valley. Perchlorate is a known carcinogen and causes thyroid cancer. So I would like to possibly investigate, or at least have a discussion with Mr. Frank at our next PSA meeting, or as soon as it's convenient for him, about his thoughts on perchlorate. And that's it.
Supervisor Shepherd.
Just a couple things. I wanted to say thank you to Craig and Marty for all the work they do for everything, not just the past meeting, but I am on the Economic Development Commission, which meets this Thursday at 11:45, and I can't be there. I have a prior meeting engagement, so I don't know if somebody wants to take it, but just to let you know, I won't be able to be there.
Who's the backup?
I think we all are. Is that the one that all of us are back up?
I think that's...
That was
I think so.
That's your PTO.
I'll double, Vicky, can you double check for us? Okay. And then maybe send out an email and then we can try to decide.
That group meets at 11:45 at the Wicateria building there at the CRC.
CRC, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty convenient.
Okay.
Other than that, I think it's all I have.
Supervisor King.
I don't have no report, but I would like to say, seven of us sitting up here, and I want y'all to know I respect your opinions. We may not agree all the time, but we are civil with each other, and I appreciate that. I really do.
Supervisor Perkins.
No report.
Come to me.
Supervisor Tuck. I just have a couple of things. One is I'm a big believer in when you say something that's not exactly right, you need to fix it. And I got an email from Ed Lawhorn. He's with Union First. And if y'all remember when we were talking about banking, I made the comment that I thought that they had basically closed down all their operations and just were having branch operations. He pointed out that they have 5 branch operations that employ 35 people, but they still have 25 associates at Arbor Drive. And so they've got 60 employees here in Montgomery County. I'm very appreciative of those 60 jobs for our citizens. And so I stand corrected. It's not just branch operations. There's 25 individuals who are engaging in everything from commercial banking and business banking to mortgage lending, securities, and investment management. With that being said, I don't have anything else to report, and this meeting is adjourned.